practice of procurement. Unit 4, approaches to sourcing supplies. Section 2, supplier appraisal. In this section, we will look at why we pre-qualify suppliers as well as some models organization will use to appraise suppliers. By the end of this section, we should be able to explain why there is a need to pre-qualify your suppliers as well as identify the models for supplier appraisal. Why pre-qualify suppliers? We explained earlier in previous units that supplier pre-qualification and supplier appraisal are the processes of evaluating and approving potential suppliers into our supply base. The purpose of this supplier appraisal, supplier evaluation, supplier pre-qualification is to ensure that potential suppliers will be able to perform any contract or tender that is awarded to the required standard. This pre-qualification avoids the risk of later problems in the tender or negotiation process. The buying organization does not want the wasted time, cost, effort, and embarrassment of awarding a contract to a tenderer who subsequently turns out to lack capacity or technical capability to handle the work, or turns out to have systems and values that are incompatible with the buying organization, or even turns out to be financially unstable and unable to complete the work because the cash flow issues or financial problems in the organization, which makes it impossible for them to supply our requirements. So in order to avoid these risks or problems, future disruptions in our supply chain, we pre-qualify suppliers to shortlist suppliers in the market and make sure we only have suppliers who can or will be able to execute a contract in the future when that contract is awarded to them. The buying organization will develop or come up with certain criteria they are looking out for. So this criteria can include the financial capability of the suppliers, the sustainability performance of the supplier, the quality and quality assurance, their technical and production capacity and capabilities, and the whole lot. Pre-qualifying suppliers will also save us time in the whole tendering process as well as fast-track the contract award process. Because it's not now that we are going to look at whether the supplier has the money, whether the supplier has the technical ability to perform the contract, whether the supplier is sustainable. No, we've already done that. We've already pre-qualified these suppliers. These suppliers that we've shortlisted, we have the assurance that they can actually meet these requirements, right? So right now we just need to go through their documents, the document they submitted in response to our invitation or our request, and award the contract to the winning bidder or the winning tenderer. Models for supplier appraisal. Some buying organizations will find it difficult coming up with criteria they would need to pre-qualify or appraise their suppliers. To some organizations, this is cost, time wasting, and if care is not taken, they may even end up coming up with criteria that is not suitable for the particular requirements they need. So some people sat down to come up with models these buying organizations can use to appraise their suppliers. These models are readily available online. So as a buying organization, you need to if you don't have time to develop your own criteria and everything, you just need to go online, download the model you want, the model you think best fits the requirements you want, and then of course appraise your suppliers with it. The first model we have here is the Ricarta's 10 C's of supplier evaluation. Ricarta designed this model to enable procurement and contracting professionals to make robust and sustainable supplier selection decisions. And this model is made up of 10 key criteria, which collectively ensures that the most optimal and low-risk decision is made. So the first C we have here is the competency of all staff. Before a particular supplier is selected, there should be evidence of the particular supplier's capability. We need to make sure everybody in the supplier's organization is competent. The managers, the sales staff, the technical and production staff, every single staff in the supplying organization has the competency, so that we don't end up awarding our contract to a supplier that do not even use the right process in recruiting people into these offices. We don't end up awarding our contract to a supplier that they don't even know who their key people or key players are. No. The second C is the capacity of supplier. What is the total capacity of this particular supplier that we are thinking of selecting? Should we award a contract to this supplier right now, would they be able to meet our requirements with the current capacity they have? Is their capacity sufficient? So in terms of capacity, the buying organization must make sure the suppliers have sufficient flexible production capacity. They must also have sufficient financial capability before we select such a supplier. The third C we have here is commitment to quality. Does this supplier we are pre-qualifying has quality policy and commitment to its success? What specific measures does this supplier employ to measure the quality of their output? Does this supplying organization have a conscious quality attitude throughout the organization? Or they don't care, they just wake up and start producing and then not care about the state of whatever they are doing? Is the supplier accredited to any of the ISO standards? In this case, we have the ISO 9000, then ISO 9000 standard. We as the buying organization need to see evidence by quality systems and perhaps by external accreditation such as the ISO 9000 just mentioned, in order to ascertain that this supplying organization has the commitment or is committed to quality. The fourth C by Ray Carter is the control of process. We need to ask how much control this supplier has over its policies or the processes. How will they ensure that they deliver consistently and reliably, especially if they rely on scarce resources and if these resources are controlled by another organization? This is very important because some suppliers or some organizations are under the control of others. They can't just sit down and take decisions on their own. They need to consult another because they are under that particular organization. So before we can select a supplier, we need to make sure that supplier is in control of their own processes. It's not now that we want to make some changes, amendments. We need to negotiate with these suppliers, and the suppliers will tell us, oh wait, we need to see our headquarters, we need to see this and this organization because we are under them and we can't take the decisions on our own, and we can't do this and that because it is not what the organization we are under is telling us to do. We need to know all this before a particular supplier is selected, if they have control for their processes or they do not. The fifth C by Ray Carter is cash. That is, your supplier must be financially sound. Your supplier should be in good financial health. Does the supplier have plenty cash, like enough cash at hand to carry out this contract if they end up winning? And what information can the supplier offer to demonstrate their ongoing financial strength? We have costs to be at C. We need to look at the cost of the products or services that the supplier is charging and compare their costs to that of their competitors. Even though we are saying in procurement and supply chain management, we don't only look at cost to make a decision. We have more important factors such as the commitment to quality and the financial health of the supplier, because we believe these factors will have or will affect your business more than cost alone, especially if you want to rely on these suppliers in the long run or for the long term. However, we still need to know the cost of the products or services the suppliers provide in order to compare these costs as well as the other aspects of the products and services to that of their competitors before we can make our decision. We have consistency to be our seventh C. How will the supplier ensure that they consistently provide high quality goods or services? Do they have a strong track record, or are they an industry newcomer with an innovative approach? We need to ask potential suppliers of their approach or whichever approach they are going to use to ensure they will consistently be able to produce or provide the output, delivery, and service. We won't want a situation where today the supplier is able to meet our requirements, the next day they are telling us stories, and then it's one story after the other. In public sector, we want to work with suppliers who are consistent. If you are doing well, be doing well consistently. If you are failing us, fail us consistently, so that we need to know some of these things to make our decision. We have culture. This has to do with the way things are done in the organization, the way the supplying organization do their things. So we look at the supplying organization's mission and vision, we look at their objectives, and we realize these two organizations are not compatible. The buying organization is not compatible with the supplying organization, then we stay away from them. If we look at their mission, vision, objectives, and then they are compatible with ours, then we can proceed to the next stage. We don't want a situation where we end up awarding the contract to someone we are not compatible with, and then always there is dispute. So looking at the culture of the organization is very important. The ninth C we have here is clean. So recaters clean here, whatever they mean by the clean is when the supply is environmentally sound. This clean is in relation to sustainability. Is the supplier committed to sustainability and the adherence to environmental laws and best practice? What are these suppliers doing to reduce their environmental footprint? Are these suppliers paying their workers the minimum wage? Are they treating their people right? Are their workers enjoying their human rights, their labor rights? Do they even have the reputation for CSR? And of course, for doing business ethically. So at all points in time, we should make sure our supplies are clean. The final C by Recata is communication. We need to find out how our suppliers plan to keep in touch with us. Will the suppliers' proposed communication approaches align with our preferred method? Who in the suppliers organization will be our contact? It is also very important to find out how these suppliers will be able to handle communications in the event of crisis. How quickly they will be able to notify us, the buying organization, in case of a supply disruption or a disruption in our supply chain. Timely communication is very key here. So we're supposed to make sure our suppliers are communicating with us at the right time with the right information. That brings us to the end of Recata's 10 C's. We have the competency of all staff, the capacity of suppliers, the suppliers' commitment to quality, how much control the suppliers have over their processes, their cash, the cost they are charging for their products and services, the consistency of output, delivery and services, the organizational culture, clean, how sustainably their suppliers are, and finally their communication, how they are going to be communicating with the buying organization. The second model we have here, the second model for supplier appraisal is the Dundas face-to-face checklist. So from this table, from this figure we have here, we see FACE against FACE. That's the face-to-face. So we take the first phase. The first phase, we have the fixed asset, the ability to deliver the goods, cost, efficiency. The second phase, we have the financial stability, the ability to work with the buyer, commitment to quality, and the environmental or ethical factors. Fixed assets, the supplier's physical resources they will need to meet the buying organization's needs. Will the supplier be able to deliver the goods? With this, we use the production capacity and the reliability of deliver quality and services. You can use the Recata's consistency of output to explain the ability of the suppliers to deliver the goods, the reliability of their delivery, their quality, their services. Then we have cost. That is looking at the cost the supplier is charging for their products and services, their goods and services, in order for us to compare this to that of their competitors. Then we have efficiency. How are these suppliers able to utilize their limited resources to meet our needs, making sure they minimize waste in the processes? Moving on to the second phase, we have the financial stability. Of course, our suppliers must be in good financial health, good financial position. These suppliers must have enough cash at hand in order to meet our requirements. They must be financially stable. We do this to ensure continuity of supply. Then we have the ability to work with the buyer. Looking at the supplier's organizational culture against your buying organizational culture to make sure you guys are compatible. If we are compatible, if the buying organization is compatible with the supplying organization, then of course both parties are willing to cooperate. Dispute is also absent in the or minimized in the whole process, and should there be disputes in the process, we can all sit down and come up with mitigation strategies that will favor both parties, right? Then we have the commitment to quality. The suppliers must prove to us, must show us evidence that indeed they are committed to quality. And this is also not just a one-time thing, like it's reliably and consistently will be able to meet our quality standards. Finally, we have the environmental or ethical factors. Recata will classify this under their clean, where we make sure our suppliers are committed to sustainability. They are paying their workers the minimum wage. They are not using child labor. They are adhering to environmental laws. They are doing everything possible to reduce environmental footprint and all that. So these are the two models for supplier appraisal. We have the Ricardo's 10Cs and the face-to-face model. By way of summary, we have defined what supplier appraisal is. We have also discussed some of the reasons why suppliers are pre-qualified before selection. We further looked at some of the standard models for appraising suppliers. And these standard models, we looked at the Ricardo's 10Cs, and we also looked at the face-to-face model. Thank you.